Happy New Year to all of you. It is now 2021. Can you believe it? And we have a whole new year in front of us to share the message of Jesus and what a gift Jesus is to the whole world and how Jesus has made a difference in our faith. This is time for your whole family. So if you need to go and get the rest of your family and make sure everyone is with you, pause now and do that. You know, sharing the stories together as a whole family is such a great thing. There will be fun ways for us to wonder together after the story has been shared, and you can do some of that throughout the week. We will also hear from other families each week, and they will wonder with us. It's important for us to be ready, though, when we begin. And when we are ready, we can wonder about our faith this week. Remember that getting ready is really important for us to do. I want you to think about those words differently, those words getting ready, because sometimes we don't think about them as seriously as we should. And when we really get ready, we might hear something from God that we might miss if we're not really ready. Getting ready means to find a good place to sit where you can be comfortable and where you can listen quietly, knowing that you are listening for God and that those around you are listening for God too. So take a few minutes to get ready, and once you're ready, ask each other, are you ready to be with God? Pause now and get ready. Well, I hope that you are all ready now, and I hope that I look ready to you so we can start the story. But we'll continue our getting ready by lighting the candle, the very same candle that I lit with the children on Christmas Eve. Listen carefully as we light this candle and hear the story of the light. Once there was someone who did such wonderful things and said such amazing things that the people began to follow him, but they didn't know who he was. And so one day they simply had to ask him, and he said, I am the light. People who love this light can be just like the light. And when we're here together as a whole great big family, we'll have this light with us while we listen to one of God's stories. We'll put it close by. Well, now it's time for our story. And here's what we need. Look at this box. This box looks old, doesn't it? It's not brand new. And parables are old. This box is also gold. Parables are precious like gold, maybe even more precious. This box also has a lid on it. Boxes have lids on them, and parables have lids on them. Sometimes it's really hard to get into a parable. It's really hard to get inside. But if you keep coming back again and again, maybe you will find your way inside the parable. Well, I know. Why don't we take a look under the lid? Oh, look at this. This is quite yellow, isn't it? It's a golden yellow. Whatever it is a lot of yellow. I wonder what this could be. It could be a lemon. It could even be the sun. I wonder what you think could be so yellow. Maybe it's a lemon drop. I wonder if there's anything else in the box that can help us with our story. No, nothing else that will help us, so I guess we just need to begin. Once there was someone who did such wonderful things and said such amazing things that the people began to follow him. And as they followed him, he was speaking about a kingdom, the kingdom of heaven. But no one had ever been to such a kingdom. No one had even visited such a kingdom. And no one had ever heard anything about such a kingdom. So the people couldn't help it. And one day they asked him, "What is the kingdom of heaven like?" And he said, "The kingdom of heaven is like when a person takes the tiniest of all seeds, the mustard seed. And if I had one on my finger, you wouldn't even be able to see it. And when the person put the seed in the ground, it grew and it grew and it grew until it was a shrub that was like a tiny tree." And the birds of the air came and they made nests in its branches. And now, I'd like to say welcome to one of our families who's going to share with us a little bit and wonder with us about this story. How are you today?
Good.
Y'all look really good. I love the butterflies. I wish it was butterfly time.
Mom, why don't you get up and then you can share that?
Did you have a good New Year celebration?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad. And I'm glad you're all here today. Did you have a chance to read the great parable about the mustard seed?
Don't sound so confident.
Yes.
It's not very long, is it? When you read it in the Bible, did you know you could find it in 3 places?
No.
No.
I thought it was all in one section. I I remember doing that parable during Godly Play a long time ago, but
Yes, yes. Well, we're going to see it again when we with our video today, it's there. So that's pretty exciting. So I thought that we might have some fun time discussing that story or just wondering about it, because there's a lot in that. Even though it's short and it seems small, there's a lot in it. So I hope you had fun thinking about the questions and wondering about what your answers were, because the fun thing about parables is they are stories that can have pretty interesting meaning, and we need to make meaning out of them for ourselves. So that makes them pretty fun stories. And sometimes they can mean something when we first look at them, and then we look at them again later, and the meaning keeps going deeper for us, which is kind of cool. And as we grow and think about them more, we get new ways to apply them to our life, which is really what's very neat about a parable. And they can really make us more creative. I think parables make us creative people. I think Jesus was good at that when he told stories. So I wonder what you thought, when I think about that story, and it seems impossible that a shrub that was kind of like a tree could come out of such a small seed. And most people think when they go to the grocery and they buy mustard seeds and they look at that tiny little seed sitting on their finger, if they pick it up, that really isn't the seed, that's the pod. Can you believe that? So what's in there, what's inside of that yet is the seed. So it's pretty amazing. So if we think about a large plant coming from such a tiny seed, I wonder if there's anything that your family has done that seemed impossible.
well, what seems impossible is this COVID thing. We don't know if we're ever going to get out of it. The quarantine and all that craziness.
Yes, I agree. And what's been hardest about it?
Well, that you can't really do a whole lot. And the spring it was worse, but now it's opened up a little bit. But still, there's social distancing. You have to have masks. You have to have sanitizer every time you enter a room and all that.
Yeah.
I'd say working and teaching kids at the same time seemed impossible. So.
Absolutely. And I imagine there were impossible things for everybody in that piece, being all of you at home together, because are you doing some schooling in the building right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's helpful. That makes it feel a little less impossible. Yeah. Get to see your friends. And there are lots of impossible things about our life, just like there are things that seem impossible when we look at stories and things like this parable. What is helping you accomplish this idea of the impossible, like your COVID experience? What's helping you accomplish it?
Well, being together, we're all in it together, and we're not the only ones who are in it. So that helps to know that there's more than one person.
Absolutely. And how do you help each other? Like your dad said, it's hard to work and be home with everyone. I'm sure that's hard for your mom too. And I'm sure there are things about it that are hard for you guys to have them at home working. I wonder how your dad's working with the impossible.
So how did we do that this spring? Anybody remember? I have a picture I sent in for work even.
I remember.
I had a work buddy. We set a little desk up next to my desk that Ava sat at. And she did her schoolwork there. So then if she had a question, she was just right next to me. I had to look over and help her.
Yeah, I did the same thing with Mommy.
Emma did the same thing with Molly.
All right. So you
this fall they're a little more autonomous, so they can do stuff themselves and just come when they need help. But this spring was harder.
Yeah. So you made a way. You used your creativity to think about a way. That's pretty neat. Were there things that you tried that didn't work?
Well, you had to try different things with schedules, right, Emma?
Yeah, I had to try different things with schedules so I wasn't as stressed out. And stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
So-
where your creativity comes in. When something doesn't work, then you can try something new. Yeah. Yeah. In this story, what came from the seed just grew and it just kept growing. What examples of this kind of growing have you seen as a family, even through COVID, or if you've seen growth in other ways?
So a few years ago, the church actually, for a VBS like collection activity, they started. They kind of reached out and formed a relationship with Hannah's Treasure Chest in Centerville, and so we kind of became aware of it then. But then over the years, we've that has grown. The girls, for their birthdays, when they used to be able to have friends over for birthday parties, instead of gifts for themselves, they'd ask people to bring donations for Hannah's. So then we would take those collections and donate those to Hannah's Treasure Chest for kids that were in need. And then also, like my Girl Scout troop that Ava's part of, we went and we helped at Hannah's. So just from that little tiny thing at church at VBS, and the church became involved, and groups from the church would go and help
We go
at
with them.
Hannah's, and we would go with them. So
Wow.
Scout Troop is collecting donations for it too, that we're going to donate eventually.
Wow. So when you find out about things like that, it's amazing the change it can make in your way of thinking. Just
yeah.
like thinking about having your friends not bring a gift to your birthday party, but to donate to a special thing like that. Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's a neat story, how something tiny can become something big.
Yep, you never know.
I know it. And there's so many things we don't know about that we could have that happen with, which is what's incredible. I wonder if it's possible to put the seed or the tree, once it's grown, that big shrub, back into the seed.
Think you can, Ava? No,
You know,
I
think
don't think you can either.
what other kinds of things come out of something that can never go back in? Can you think of something?
Two children.
Your children? Absolutely. You know what I think about? I think about toothpaste that comes out of a toothpaste tube. It's hard to put it back in. There are a lot of things like that. I wonder if it has anything to do with purpose. You know, we all have a purpose, and things that we see in the world have a purpose. I think that seed has a purpose. And I wonder what, Ava, you think that purpose is. What's the purpose of a seed?
What comes from
What
the
do
seed?
seeds do?
Grow,
Say a little louder.
grow.
They grow. And do they just grow? Or is there a reason why we would put a seed in the ground and then wait for it to do something? What are you hoping will happen?
What about plants that we grow for the giving garden?
I
We
was
have-
thinking about the giving
seed.
garden.
We put a seed in a little pot, and then we put it in Emma's window, right? And then they grow. And then what do we do with them?
We take them out and plant them in the ground.
And then what do you hope's going to happen? I saw your garden. It was gorgeous this summer. It was just wonderful the whole season.
It's gonna grow more in the ground instead of a little pot.
Yes, it grows deeper in the ground. And what does it produce? What did your plants?
Flowers?
Yes. And were they all the same?
No.
No, they were beautiful. What do you think the purpose of flowers might be?
Well, they could make people's day.
Yes. Yes.
It can also be for decoration too.
Decoration, just beauty, just to look at,
Yeah,
you know, so making someone's day, being beautiful for the environment. So the flower has a purpose. If we tried to stuff it back in the seed, then what?
you killed the flower.
Yeah, you miss everything. You miss it all. Yeah. Can you think of any time as a family when you tried to keep something from getting bigger? You ever try to stop something from doing what it was supposed to do or keep it from getting bigger?
Yeah, I mean, I think just as the kids get bigger too, you look at where they came from and where they're headed and how much longer they have left. So, and living, in our house with us,
Yep.
taking care of them. So,
My mother used to say, I want to put a brick on your head so you don't grow anymore, because she wanted to keep us around and keep us the way we were. Yeah. But what would happen if we did that? What would happen if your mom and dad tried to keep you from growing?
We would never learn anything because we were just stuck at that one spot.
Or life would be very boring.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's so much coming to look forward to, so many wonderful things. So I wonder how your family could be like a mustard seed. Now, you did give one example with Hannah's Treasures, and you gave an example with COVID, even going through a hard time. Is there any other way you'd like to be a mustard seed as a family?
I think just in general, seeds in general, they have a protective coating or whatever. And that when things are difficult and the environment is not correct, they kind of stay hidden in their seed. And then once the environment and stuff is correctly, then they explode out and grow and become a big tree or a big plant or whatever. So
Wow. Yeah. Kind of God's way of kind of protecting things. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you all are pretty good mustard seeds. Since I've met you, I've certainly seen that, the mustard seed in you. So what, I wonder, could the tree really be in our lives? What could that plant really be a reminder of in our lives? Is there anything that you could say that the tree is like?
I think it's kind of like your faith, that your faith starts out small when you're little. And as you grow older, you learn more and you grow in faith, and kind of like the passage where it eventually becomes big enough that can support other things like birds and nests. Eventually your faith is big enough where you can teach other people, pass it on to your kids, etc., sort of thing.
Wow. Wow. That's great. Do you think you've done some of that already? You think you have a faith that has already done some of that? What do you think about that, Emma? What have you done to be like that tree, that seed that grew into the bush that was like a amazing thing?
What have you done?
Well, I've helped Ava out. I've taught her some things that helps her later, and and she still uses them. I've taught her tips and tricks for some things, and she uses them, and she finds them pretty helpful.
Great. Yeah, that's a way to be a seed or a real strong part of someone's life, by showing your faith in them. And that faith has to come from somewhere. And so that's the seed in you, that faith. That's awesome. Ava, how do you think you show your faith? You have a way that you show your faith to your family? When you think about your faith and you think about what God has given you, what do you think is the most important thing God has given you?
What is the most important thing God's given you? What about us? Is that an important thing?
Your family?
You know what I was going to say, what I think about when I think about Ava, I think about the way that you show God's love. And you do that sometimes just by smiling, sometimes just by being present. And I do see you help other people. When we were having children's church together, I saw that a lot. So that's a piece of you that has come from the seed that you were given, that you're just bursting out with sometimes. And I imagine your friends find you a pretty loyal friend, a pretty loving friend. I imagine that. Do you have friends who tell you that you're a good friend? Has anyone ever said that to you?
Like a lot of them.
Good. Yeah, people do recognize those things about you. And sometimes people think, oh, they say that to everybody, and people don't. They don't say those things to everybody. Well, this has been fun. I've really enjoyed having you here this morning, and I think hopefully we'll have a lot of fun with our families along the way this month, looking at the parables and talking about what they could mean in our lives and what they might show us that sometimes we miss if we just read them and move on. So I appreciate the time. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you.
Have an awesome day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'd like to say thank you to the Swartz family for helping us begin our wondering about this story. And now, I'd like you to remember to pick a time this week to read the story and wonder together as a family, just like we did today. The questions are here on the screen, along with the Bible references, because this Bible story appears in 3 different places in the Bible. You might also want to think about what you can do to use your limitless faith or big faith to show God and Jesus to the world. Now we need to put the story away. And we'll begin with the birds of the air and their nests. Those birds that came from all different directions to build their nests in the tree. And the tree, or the small tiny tree that was like a big shrub. Put it all away so it's ready for next time. And the person who planted the seed. And this big piece of yellow. And the lid. And now, it's time for us to finish our time in our special way together as a whole family. We need to change this light. This light that has been with us the whole time we've been here. This light that we lit on Christmas Eve. We change this in a very special way. This is one of the most important parts of our time together. Watch carefully. Look, this light that was right here in this special place is now going everywhere. It can be with us wherever we go. It can be with your whole family whenever you go anywhere. And now there's a time for us before we leave each other when we need to say a blessing. I'd like to bless you. This is a way that you can bless anyone that you might like to bless. And we use these words. Remember them? God loves you, God is with you, and God blesses you. Now that I have blessed you, you need to bless each person in your family. And I want you to know I will be with you next week. Goodbye for now.